Morning. So I want to start this off today by telling you a little bit about what YouTube is trying to do to talk, people that are talking about the election. They basically sent out their new edict yesterday saying that if you're talking about the presidential election, if you say anything other than Biden is the president-elect, they're going to take your video down. You cannot talk about irregularities in the election. I'm going to try and watch my words here because I don't know if they have an algorithm set up to catch certain words or what the deal is, but total suppression of speech. There's active court cases in the United States Supreme Court alleging exactly what YouTube is not allowing people to talk about. It's terrible. Now there's other avenues you can go. You could go to Rumble, VK. There's some other platforms where you can upload videos, but YouTube's a big one. That's where everybody goes. And the fact that they're saying you can't even talk about funny business regarding votes is unbelievable. So there you go. If you don't see any videos about what I was just talking about, that's why. But there's basically two issues that I'm passionate about right now. One of which is the China virus, and the other one is Biden versus Trump. So anyways, there you go. That's what YouTube says to all their people uploading videos. Not allowed to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it. Pennsylvania Supreme Court case. I know everybody's telling you that it was thrown out and that Supreme Court's not going to hear their case. It's not true. What happened is one of the main points of Mike Kelly's case was they wanted immediate or emergency injunctive relief, basically saying they want to stop immediately. They want the Supreme Court to put a stop to Pennsylvania further certifying their votes. And then they could argue the merits of the case after that. What the Supreme Court said was, no, we're not going to stop the certification, but we will hear the merits of your case. So they did not throw the case out. They just said they were not going to stop the immediate certification of the votes. So Pennsylvania and Mike Kelly and Sean Parnell's case is still active in the Supreme Court. It's still on the docket. They're going to argue the merits of the case and then provide relief once they come to a conclusion on the merits of the case. Now, we have the Attorney General of Texas, Paxton, filed a suit in the Supreme Court suing for the swing states, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. What he's doing is he's arguing that on behalf of the people of Texas, that they've been disenfranchised by those 4 swing states not following the Constitution of the United States and how they handle their elections. And now a bunch of other states have jumped on board, rightfully so. I believe we're up to 16 or 17 states that are partnering with Texas to say, yeah, we're with you on this case. The way that those 4 states change their election laws outside of the legislature, how there's not equal protection, meaning that the people of Texas and these other states don't have the same. The 4 swing states are not playing by the same rules. They did not go through the legislature of the state to make their election laws. Now, Pennsylvania, they did go through their legislature in 2019 to allow the mail-in voting. And that's part of the reason the Supreme Court kind of kicked Mike Kelly's case back, saying, well, they did go through the legislature, but what they need to do after going through the legislature is they need to amend their state constitution. Now, they started that process, they did not finish it. So, good on Texas. This is the big case. If this Texas and these other additional states can have success with this, that turns all those 60 some odd electoral college votes, either throws them away, or there's several options. They can kick the can to the House, and the House can each state can get a delegate, and I believe there's 29 to 21 Republican majority there. The problem is, if we get some of these neocon electors, if there's one delegate per state, and we get some of these neocons, they could just vote for Biden. So we'll see what the Supreme Court comes up with. And if nothing happens with that, it's going to become apparent that we're not a nation of law and law and order anymore. You can break the law, it's blatant, it's on tape, and get away with it. And I think the deep state is in such big trouble behind the scenes that they're willing to break any law necessary to get Trump out of there. Because I believe what some of these people will get prosecuted for is much bigger than breaking the election law. So they basically said, well, if we get caught, screwing with the election, it's not going to be any worse than what we're going to have to go through anyways. So we may as well break that law and give it a try. So good on these other states. There's even some of these Democrat states where the Attorney General can get on board with Texas. Big deal if you have a Democrat governor. Take North Carolina for example. They have a Democrat governor who, Trump won North Carolina. But for the governor's race, which was voted on, this election in 2020, 200,000 or 300,000 people would have had to vote for Trump and then break free and vote for a Democrat governor. I don't believe that happened. So I believe there's some shenanigans going on there. But these Democrat states with Democrat governors, their attorney general can get on board. I know that's a stretch because, ultimately they have to live with that Democrat governor. But, hey, 17, 18, 20 states suing those other 4 states, it's a big deal. And if it doesn't go through, if they're able to get away with it, you've got 20 states full of people and 80 some odd million people that I think voted for Trump. They're not going to recognize it. They're not going to recognize the federal government. Back in 1824 and 1826, the Union put up tariffs on the South. They put it up for a vote. Just total overkill tariffs on the South's agriculture and stuff like that. 46 of 47 Southern legislators, both times around in 24 and 26, voted against those tariffs. Well, the Union put those tariffs on them anyways. So it was really a starting point for the Confederate States to, they really got a bad taste in their mouth about the Union at that point, in 1824 and in 1826, because they said, listen, if we have these courts, and the courts are supposed to be the law of the land and keep everything in order, but the courts aren't recognizing our vote, why are we going to be part of the Union? And that's really what started the secessionist movement in the South. And then, of course, later on came Lincoln, and he was a total tyrant. If we can remove slavery from the Civil War conversation, and I'm not trying to be naive, and just, I understand slavery was a big deal, but I also understand that slavery was nationwide at the time. It wasn't just a Southern problem. And the basis of the Civil War was not about slavery. Revisionist history will tell you that, but it was really about the taxes and the tariffs that the Union was putting on the Southern states. They treated them much like the Yankees think about the South now. They're just a bunch of dumb rube rednecks. Let's get them to do all our hard work for us, and then we're not going to pay them anything or tax the living hell out of them. And that was really the motivation for the Civil War. So the South said, well, we went through the courts, we went through everything, and you're still not treating us fairly. So we want to secede. So that looks a lot like what's happening now. If you get 20, or maybe it's more, maybe it's going to be 25 states to go through the courts of the country, the highest court in the land, with obvious problems. And if the highest court in the land is going to dismiss it, not even look at the evidence, or, they've said they'd look at the case, but if nothing good comes out of this, and they, the voters of these 20 some odd states are totally disenfranchised, why wouldn't those states do what the South did during the Civil War? If you're not going to recognize us, if we can't use the courts, there's only one more option. So, like I said, I wish we could really remove slavery from that argument. Of course, slavery is terrible. Nobody agrees with slavery. Nobody thinks slavery was a good thing. You have to be a light switch brain to not understand that and not allow a conversation to be had about what was happening in the country back then. And I'll tell you this about the Civil War and that time frame, and Lincoln being this worshipped God nowadays. Lincoln was a white separatist. The only reason he wanted to get rid of slavery is because he wanted blacks removed from the country. He wanted to bring them all down to South America or send them somewhere else. He didn't want to just stop slavery. He wanted to get them out of the country altogether. So, of course, revisionist history has him as this big hero, and he wasn't. The 13th Amendment, which made slavery illegal according to the Constitution, was not ratified until after Lincoln died. And in fact, when he was still alive, the 13th Amendment was put up for a vote between all the states, and 5 northern states voted against it. They wanted to keep slavery. Northern states. So your history books won't tell you that, because the North are the good guys and the South are the bad guys. But it's just not the truth. Nobody thinks slavery is good, okay? The world was a much different place back then. So if we can all agree that slavery was bad, can we at least have a conversation about how tyrannical the Union was and how it treated the South? And when the South wanted to secede and the northern states wouldn't allow it, the Union, the South got violent. And, the reason they got violent, we just touched on, is they went through the court and all that. But the Union was not going to allow them to secede because of the agriculture that the South was producing. The South was producing all the agriculture, all the farming, or most of it, for the entire country. So the Union could not get by without the South's agriculture, without doing business with the South. So what did they do? They sent their military in there, and they fought a huge war over it. Everybody would tell you it was about slavery. It was about the South wanted to secede, and the North could not allow that because of the agriculture of the South. So the Union taxed the holy hell out of the South, and the South wasn't going to take it anymore. So, switching gears here, is it just so convenient that our biggest international adversary, China, I'd call them an enemy at this point, the infiltration that they've done for decades in this country, is it just convenient that a virus gets released from China prior to this election, and it gives all these states the green light to allow all these mail-in ballots? Coincidence or no? I'm starting to think it wasn't a coincidence. This was an intentional bioweapon released for several different reasons, but one of which was to get rid of Orange Man. They had to get rid of him no matter what. China and the Democrats are in bed together. Look at what happened to Eric Swalwell out there in California. He was the biggest, one of the loudest, biggest proponents of Trump being a Russian agent. Not just saying he's compromised or any of that. Actually calling him a Russian agent. So, turns out, he's had a years-long relationship with a Chinese spy. And this woman has had other relationships with some Midwest governors. I haven't figured out which governors yet, but some governors in the Midwest. So we have a Chinese spy infiltrating Eric Swalwell, who's on the House Intelligence Committee, meaning that he has unlimited access to totally classified information. So we have a Chinese spy in a honeypot situation, sleeping with a member of the House Intelligence Committee, and she's a known Chinese spy. And he'll get away with it, right? Because they get away with everything. He'll get a slap on the wrist, and he might get pulled off that committee, but he's not going to lose his congressional seat. You know what else I came across the other day is that Obama, when he was running for Senate, to win his election, his Senate election, he had to challenge his opponent based on signature matches in Illinois. So Obama challenged signature matches to win his Senate race in Illinois. Ironic, right? So what we have to look forward to today here is these 4 swing states need to respond to Texas's case by 3 p.m. today, Thursday. We'll see what their response is, but I think, I know a lot of you are black-pilled now, are just saying, oh, nothing's going to work because everything's gotten thrown out now. But this is a very strong case. You have the people, not just the attorney generals and not just the politicians, but the people of 25 states supporting this. I know I called my attorney general where I live, and the state where I live is on board with this. And I encourage you to call your attorney general in your state too. In fact, I'll try to pin, I have a list of the attorney general's phone numbers across the country. I'll pin it in the comments of this video, but I encourage you to call them. Leave them a message, send them an email saying, listen, we want on board with this Texas thing. We feel disenfranchised. We're not going to recognize a federal government that was stolen. You know, and enough people put pressure on them, even if they're Democrat states, they'll get on board with this. So that's what we need. We need this Texas thing to be the big one. This is the Hail Mary pass, but I think it has a lot of validity. I know people are telling you nothing's going to work and Biden's going to be the next president, but you got to keep the faith. There's some really good people on board with this, and they know that if this doesn't work and they're able to get away with, I got to choose my words wisely here, get away with these irregularities, that we are no longer a nation of laws and norms. If the politicians don't have to follow any of the laws, they can break them all to usurp power, then that changes everything. That means there's no more Constitution. We shouldn't recognize the Union. The South, these Midwest states, other states want to get involved, should really lead a secessionist movement. There's no need for the federal government after that. So we'll see what happens, but keep your spirits up. Call your representatives. Just blow them up. Anytime you got a free few minutes, call them, leave them messages, get them on the phone, send them emails. Public pressure is working, and it will work. There's 80+ million of us who are on the same team. We see what's going on here. Look at what happened with Newsmax. A new ratings thing came out, and Newsmax, for whatever time frame, maybe a week-long time frame, surpassed Fox in ratings. Fox is the king of cable. But Newsmax, because they're on the Trump team and they see what's going on here, they have the biggest ratings in cable right now. I don't know if it'll last. I mean, I know Tucker's still huge and all that, but that's indicative of the country. The country's looking for the truth. And that's why YouTube and all these other platforms are trying to silence it. I got kicked off Twitter yesterday, you know, just for nothing, because I'm a conservative. So keep your head up, call your representatives, pray. We definitely need it. And, you know, really keep these lawyers, and especially some of this Texas attorney general and some of these other attorney generals, keep them in your prayers, give them support, call them out on social media, say thank you, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family. This is not over. This is a fight. We have a constitution in this country. Our founding fathers were brilliant in the way they set this up. I never thought I'd be advocating for the executives to have more power than they do, but they need to overstate, or they need to correct what these corrupt states have done. And that's what the Supreme Court's going to be for. And the executive branch does need a little bit more power right now to not allow certain states to steal the whole thing. All right, hopefully this video stays up with the tyrants at YouTube. Y'all have a good day.